And away we go. So good morning, and once again, thank you for attending this morning's session. This is the fourth module that we've delivered into the New Zealand dealer market. And obviously this is an extension of the B&D business being a division called the B&D Group Training Academy. So we're purpose-built to deliver information sessions and product training for you, the dealers, across the New Zealand key dealer market. So today's session is all about the compliance. So we're talking about a mandatory change in an Australian New Zealand standard that comes into effect on the 1st of the 12th, and it's actually pertaining to residential garage door openers only. Just bear with me a tick. I've got a COVID problem beside me. Just bear with me. Sorry guys, a wayward hound. Just pulled it back into line. Okay, so sorry about that. So we are now going to commence the journey, and the short journey through this pack. It now covers off the Australian New Zealand standard. So effectively, the wording on the screen needs to be talked to verbatim, because we all need to understand these two front slides. So we have an Australian standard and New Zealand standard, which is AS NZS 60335.2.95-2012. That was the existing, and then an amendment came through, which is that 2018. That was where we were given notice of our need to change compliance, and we were given that 2-year wriggle room to get our house in order, and then it became mandatory coming up 1st of the 12th, 2020. So you'll see it on the screen. The amendment addresses the unattended operation of an automatic opener over a smartphone or network devices. Previously, the standard, which I was talking about earlier, the 2002, it was already in place, and it covered the event of an installer commissioning auto close. So the auto close timer on a garage door opener needed to have a set of photo beams seen and installed and commissioned before that function would work. So that was already in place. But then there was also another stipulation around the leading edge force of the door. So if the door closing force exceeded 400 Newton, which equates to 40 kg, then a photo beam would need to be installed as well. So that's covering those excessively large or heavy doors, especially those T-track doors, potentially bespoke build in your dealerships, and or very large panel lifts. So if we step through, what does it mean? So what does it mean for the B&D group, and what does it mean for the dealers? The new standard change addresses the hazard of unattended operation of an opener operable with a smartphone. This change requires all new installations of smart openers and smartphone control kits to have a safety beam installed from the 1st of December 2020. So all I've done here is to rip from the installation guide from our photo beams. So it's a one combined document that covers wired and wireless photo beams, and it's the front page. This is right in front of the installer as soon as it opens it up, and now we call to light the existence of this as an Australian and New Zealand standard prior. So there's that 60335, it was already there, and these are those things that we were covering. So very important we remember that the mounting height of a safety beam must not exceed 100 mil off the deck or off the floor, because that's the world regulation to prevent an infant's head from going underneath that beam. So it's not to the beam casing, it's not to the top of the beam casing, it's to the actual beam itself, so 100 mil. Then we also call out that that compliance to the bottom edge of the door must not exceed that 400 or 40 kilo force to cover off those excessive door weights. Now, how does it affect the products? Once again, it's always good to just walk through this. You'll see a number of models indicated on the screen. If we flip from Dominator to Garador now, I say we've got the current Garador products that are impacted as a result of these changes, 1st of December. So it's the DSO3 Dominator Smart. We have smartphone control kits installed after that time on Secure, Select, and Excel. And when used with the GDO12 ATA Hero in residential applications, because this is a residential application compliance. And then if we look at what's already in the marketplace, so someone goes on site on a previously installed SDO2 V2 Dominator Advance, or once again encounters an SDO4 V1 Dominator Panel Pro and needs to upgrade, that smartphone control kit needs to be installed if smartphone control is going to be added, and photo beams need to be applied. So if we look at the Garador range and flip it also, GTS3 Genius, the smartphone control kit solution out of the box, that's impacted, needs the photo beams. Any smartphone control kit installed after the 1st of the 12th on Precision, Focus, and Reflex, and once again, that crossover product in ATA, being the GDO12 Hero in residential applications. And if we step back through the previous range of products in the marketplace, SDO2 V2 Garador Precision, when installed with a smartphone control kit, and then SDO4 V1 Garador Focus, also when installed with a smartphone control kit after that date, being the 1st of the 12th, 2020. So that's the impacted product range in New Zealand. Now, we've kept the slide pack integrated with ATA product. It's just relevance. There has been some crossover products over the period of time in ATA manufacturing the openers for the New Zealand market. I'm not going to call out the top area. That's really about where we are right now. So Secure Panel Max Power Drive, same next gen platform you're on, and they've got a connected opener in CAD Smart. We had those previous opener ranges, as we talked about, with smartphone control impacted. And then the ATA True brand, we also have now a next gen offer. So that's what we call a Synchro, same chassis design, everything same, just a different brand. And then all the way across to what was in the marketplace before, we're flipping that as well, where we need to obviously upgrade with a smartphone control kit. If it is going to be upgraded, it needs a set of photo beams as well. So that gives you the full landscape across predominantly New Zealand market, because that is your market, and the dotted lines to a couple of openers that may have crossed over in the journey to the New Zealand market. Okay, so this is where it all changes up a bit. We get to now to the nuts and bolts of the changeover. So you've got two options with the B&D Group offer. If you're going to put those beams in on a site and you need to make that choice of wireless beam installation or wired, we've done some numbers against the installation time. So just gives you a bit of an understanding of the benefit of tying into the B&D Group offer, and because we have got the only wireless photo beam solution in the marketplace, full stop. What that's going to do is give you a huge shot in the arm to diminish and lower your installation time to complete this task. So we have the wireless beam, and we've estimated that with a bit of wriggle room to be 20 to 30 minutes to install the wireless beam. And if we go down to the second table there, you'll talk about the second option. So we're giving complete control of the installer or the dealer principals to make that choice of wired beams now. So we provide them in the ATA branded Easy Beam, the 2-wire bus beam. And this is going to be broken down into 2 layers. So the first layer is the standard operating procedure now. If there was going to be a set of wires, wired beams installed, that would be with pegging of cables across the garage ceiling line, potentially walls, around the back of guides, etc. And that's the quickest. That's 40 to 60 minutes. But if we look at the best practice and the most professional way for a consumer's aesthetics to see what's happening around the garage is pleasing to them, that it's nice and clean, we would recommend that you use conduiting. So whether that's flexi conduit or whether that's straight conduit with elbows, with clips, all nice and tucked away, with terminating up at the power head of the unit. But that's going to apply an extra time frame of 80 to 90 minutes beyond the normal installation time. So once again, if you go back to the top table, we would highly recommend that everybody was using the wireless technology, because A, we're the only company in our marketplace and in the world with true wireless photo beam technology, and we're minimizing that installation time. So this table looks complicated, but it's simple. We need to indicate to you we're going to produce in the New Zealand market, like we have in the indicated in the Australian market, a sales bundle. So what that means is that we're going to grab the relevant photo beam that we deem, so either a wireless solution or a wired, and then partner that with the garage door opener solution, so the Genius and the Smart in Dominator, and also the smartphone control kits in every variation of them. And we put a separate part number as what we call a sales bomb, which is going to be a picking solution. So in the warehouse, the guys will just grab, i.e. a Genius, and put the beam together with that good, and it becomes a particular order code. So it's a bundled solution for you. Okay. We believe this is the easiest and cleanest way to offer the solution, and it's going to be across, once again, all Garrador solutions, all Dominator solutions, especially once we get down to all the variations in the marketplace for the earlier generation smartphone kit, the rolling door operator smartphone kit, and then if we go down to GDO 12, we also need a solution in that for the smartphone kit, because the beams are different and the hub is hub only. So we needed to kit all these things out in a table to explain that it is coming through. We haven't finalized those order codes yet, but the marketing team will be communicating them in a timely fashion before launch. I called out on the top left-hand corner here of the reality. At this stage, we're not putting the photo beams inside the physical packaging of the garage door opener, nor the smartphone control kit. We're looking and seeing about that. Potentially it may happen over time with changes in packaging design into the 2021 period. But for now, we're just going to supply them as an accessory that we would add to the sale, and they would be billed out under the combined order code. Just gives you a bit of an indication of our forethought around any project like this. It becomes a timeline. We're hitting all the dates. Not saying that it's a chest beating moment. It's just saying that we've preempted a lot of this stuff because we needed to in Australia and New Zealand to not only deliver some training level of rollout to the dealership and our own people, but also you'll see the timelines of how we go through a process like this. So we've got internal comms, we've got external comms, we've got artwork that needs to be developed, literature that needs to be changed or developed around that. We've even got press releases in Australia, so take it out to the market to really enforce that this is a big change. But what I wanted to call out was the training piece. So we're going through the training piece at the moment. And then we've got a second layer to the training piece. And I'd just at the end of the pack, we'll just have a discussion around that, but just start to think this is not only an information session, because we have the reality in the marketplaces of a lot of installers have yet to install one set of photo beams. I thought it was quite necessary that we have a deeper session on things like good housekeeping, correct installation, use of conduiting, fault finding. So what happens when things go wrong and how to diagnose those things. And that's flagged between end of October, early November, and that will be shot out as a separate registered event. So just have a think about that. But once again, we're all mindful that when we're doing a change like this, that not only is the front office personnel required to know, but definitely the service technicians and the installers need to know if they don't know. So that'll be made available to you, but just gives you a wider understanding of how our thought processes are around the need to educate, and also a bit of a behaviour change too, because we're also recommending the use of that conduiting, and it's not commonplace for people to use conduiting in a residential photo beam installation. So the comms have gone out. That's gone out to the wider New Zealand dealer market, just to indicate the compulsory nature of this change. So it is a big change for us. It's got a lot of different layers and legs to it that we need to obviously unpack. And that's why we've developed a series of frequently asked questions surrounding this topic. So what we've done through the project is looked internally to say, what will our own people ask about? What will our dealers predominantly ask about? And what will the consumers be asking about? So we've got a series of frequently asked questions. The fast facts on the page are the starting point of some of those answers to the questions we asked ourselves, and then the call out for the training that you're going through right now. But it's definitely a hard change. It's not an optional change. We need to fall into line to this. And from a manufacturer of garage door openers and a representative, I find it's a very pleasing shift in the market, because we've got an opportunity now to change the landscape, not only in smartphone control with photo beams, but also because of this opportunity to have a more robust conversation with your consumers about non-contact safety, full stop. It's always good to have the inbuilt safety auto reverse system, but the bottom line is that the preferred is always, for complete safety, is a non-contact beam sensor across the opening. Frequently asked questions are identified on the screen, just a few call outs. It's not the big list. The big list will be distributed, or if it hasn't, through the marketing team in New Zealand to show where we're heading with all these answers. So I've just called out a few on the screen here, which we really need to know, and I'll just call these ones out now. Does the change affect me if I have a smart opener already installed before the 1st of December 2020? And do I need to install a safety beam? Well, the answer is no, because it's only applicable from the 1st of December 2020. But we highly recommend that if someone overlapped with that installation, so in service or installation, a callback, that the consumer is dead aware that we have a compliance change, and would be highly recommendable for them to upgrade that unit to fall into line. but it's not mandatory at that top question. It's not mandatory. The time savings we've just put in as well, just as a reference for you. Then we talk about, do I need to install a safety beam if I'm replacing an old opener with a smart opener after the 1st of December? Well, that's a yes, because you're upgrading the site to a smart controlled device. Do I need to install a safety beam if I purchase the open before 1st of December, but installed it afterwards? Now, that's a really important one that we all understand, because there's phases of our sales process and our delivery schedule, but it's a yes. Because the amendment put through addresses the installation date, not the purchasing date, well, then it applies for that one as well. There's a number of them, and we can also cover these off in the in-between questions at the end of the presentation, because there's always going to be right now questions, and that's why I've kept that last 15 minutes or so just for you guys to liven up the room a bit with some robust conversation about how you see this playing out. It's really the last slide. Because it's a information session, I'm just asking for some understanding here that we've got some obligations. So I've broken them down into two main areas, all and sales. So all, be aware of the changes, just be aware, because we've got some time up our sleeve. It will come very fast, but 1st of the 12th is that effective date. But if you have any issues and have any questions, please direct them to the B&D Group representative in Kiwi, and I'm sure that they'll be able to handle, because they've seen those frequently asked questions over and over again, and they'll be able to knock those questions down. For you as the dealer, we're just asking that we've got some deeper understanding required at the sales and customer facing divisions now, because we're needing to get to understand how this is going to impact your customers, and give those customers early warning of that change. So that would mean potentially changing documentation regarding quotations. We're also asking for a stock management plan. It depends on the marketplace condition, but what we're saying here, if we move into into a bundle solution, then we need to align to the 1st of the 12th that no dealer is left without matching the stock that's on hand in those smart solutions and also the smartphone control with an accessory, which is that photo beam. So the matching set. So that will just be that small management change plan that we're just asking that you work through with your B&D representative to make sure that you're not having stock that's not matching a set of photo beams if you choose to bundle thereafter. Then we talk about training. I've called it out before on the timeline piece. We believe that this is the best way to deal with this area, is to have 2 layers of training, both the information session and the deeper dive, and that's going to be available to you in New Zealand. And then the content of that is basically installer based. So I've just called that second tier about the content and elaborated on it. So we're going to be talking about and constructing knowledge on correct installation, use of conduiting if you are defaulting to a wired beam solution, the labour adjustments. That's really important, and it's important for everyone actually. We've got now an opportunity that we can become very honest and transparent with our subcontract labour force or the employed staff base to really fine tune what labour means to install a photo beam, and then apply that out to the overall package price, because things are needing to be factored around with more labour now. And then the last piece, which is actually the most important for the service and installer base, is that fault finding. So what happens when things go wrong? And those things can be as simple as the beam being knocked out of alignment, and how to define that it's just out of alignment, whether that's from the beam itself or whether the diagnostics can be elaborated on the opener itself. these are the things we'll unpack in the session. One thing that I'll call out that not many people know, but in the event of an issue with a photo beam, we have a unique system within our product, and that's where the use of a remote can be controlled as what we call a dead man down switch. So the scenario is that the beam has failed in some way, whatever condition that failure is, and the door is suspended open and cannot close as a result. By the use of the pressing and holding the coded remote, that remote has the ability to drive the door down to a fully closed position, so the consumer has peace of mind, lock up security until someone can attend to the beam issue. So that's really important to know because it's unique. No one else has that technology, and it just gives us a little bit of a chop out if things go wrong. And invariably things will go wrong. The information that we can share about beam call outs, and in the States, in North America, beams became mandatory in the year 2000 as a result of one death a year leading up to that, where that was a major issue, and nothing has happened ever since. So once that became mandatory, but the extension of knowledge of beams being installed over there with the sheer volume of beams is the biggest call out of any garage door business, is a callback surrounding the photo beam installation. Okay, so we need to get this right because we don't want a series of unnecessary call outs because of a mandatory change in the marketplace with this Australian standard. So that's why, once again, I'm going to do this second tier of training to you guys and offer that up in late October through to the first week of November. So we've come to an end. I trust that the messaging is clear, but happy to everybody to take themselves off mute now, and we can have a bit of a discussion about any questions that may have arisen as a result of the content this morning. Crickets. Hello.
Very quiet bunch, Andrew.
Yeah. You might be able to throw in a few bombs into the room because you've got the dealer lens, Mark. Have you got anything that you still fully don't understand yet?
Well, having been involved in the sort of the building of some of the
documentation
spaces, I've got a pretty good handle on it. Yep. I think the main thing for everyone to remember is stock on hand, existing orders out there around your consumers and housing companies, and we're here to assist with extra stock and matching up smartphones with the correct PE beams. So the BDMs will know their stuff. So feel free to lean on them for information. You're not alone in this. We're all working towards it together, and it's, as Sandra said, it's not a choice. It's something that has come in with legislation. So we just need to get on board.
Susan's just asked from a GHB perspective. We have been starting to roll out some new prices, Susan, and in that we do have a disclaimer underneath the smart motor that just sort of says that as of December 1st, the regulation that has to be paired with the PE beam. So we are starting to roll that out, and we'll have a memo going out to them as well.
What's the acronym? What's the acronym GHB?
Group House Builder.
Okay, good. Not that smart.
Okay, here, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Couple of technical questions.
Mm-hmm.
With the new smartphones coming out, the firmware in it won't allow the smartphone to work without the PE beams being connected or installed, correct?
Yeah, so really good question. It comes up in every session. I leave it to the end so we can just realize what's happening. So we're not changing the firmware immediately. Okay, it's going to be a transition. We believe it's the best to deal with the dealer market to give you the wriggle room to get everything in order. And come a period of time in March, we're going to do the hard changeover of firmware, and that will mean functionality will change. And that functionality change is that the product will be installed, but the smartphone control side of the product will not work until the beam is sensed.
Okay, moving forward from that, what about how does that affect when we go back to a older motor, whether it be a smartphone pre-installed or a motor that has the old smartphone hub in it? We do a firmware upgrade, and it says, "Oh no, it won't work because you have to have the safety beam installed."
Yep. So it's really, once again, thanks for the question, because it's that layer we got. Obviously, we knew it was going to come up. So imagine we are the masters of our own destiny with firmware. Okay, so we develop it. So behind the scenes, what we're doing, but before this hard change in March, is that we will navigate every version of circuit board ever developed and go, yes, this is allowed to be upgraded, and it will call for it. This one will ignore. This one will say yes, no, yes, no. So there'll be a map, so you won't ever get a situation where a programmer is plugged in to a pre-existing product, and then all of a sudden the consumer's being asked for 200 odd Kiwi dollars for a set of beams to be installed on the spot for them to liven up their smartphone again. So we'll navigate around that in firmware. Is that?
Yep, no, that's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
The other thing is with safety beams themselves.
Yep.
Andrew, what is the average lifespan of the batteries, and use of lifespan of batteries in PE beams?
Oh, I like that question. I can supply a data sheet which was produced when we first manufactured the photo beams, and it has not changed. The models will need to be refreshed by Marketing New Zealand to put a Kiwi slant on it. But what it does list is every opener in ATA brand, both residential, gates and commercial, and it's based on how many times triggered the beam. So the beam is broken once, that's an action, and it will say how many times the beams are broken, and therefore equates that to a lifespan of those batteries. Because it really does, it's a really important message, because in a residential, in normal activation, that's potentially got quite a long time on it, the battery life. But once we start switching, the beams are being broken regularly on a regular basis, meaning that it's being used more than a household condition. All of a sudden, the batteries are being chewed out in 3 months or 2 months, and that's what happens at commercial sites. And it's still not being communicated correctly, because the duty cycle of the battery is under pressure every minute, every hour. So we ask at commercial for that, if beams are going to be installed in wireless, that some documentation is supplied to that commercial customer to say, you need to change these batteries regularly because of the application they're found in. But to answer that simple question, I'll supply that data sheet to Matt Tegg in marketing, and put a spin on models, so it makes a very clear document for Kiwi.
Yep, that's cool. Another thing is, what is the maximum span of PE beams?
8 meters. It's come up because we needed this clarified in a different area of the business, but they say comfortably, it's come up at the moment. There's a job in New Zealand where we needed to confirm, and one of them was, this job was 8.5 meters span, and that's comfortable. They say it runs out exceptionally inconsistent at 10 meters.
Yep, that was me.
Oh, there you go. Did you get your answer? You didn't get your answer?
From Joe Fats.
Oh, great. Yeah. So that was the 8.5 email. Yeah. Yep.
Because we do a lot of custom doors, over
Oh,
the
yeah, I could imagine. T-Track is your friend over there, I believe. T-Track doors, or even custom panel lifts. What's the deal?
Yep. Correct. Yeah, custom panels.
Custom panels, right?
Yeah, custom doors. Yeah. Does this new legislation apply to gates as far as with smartphone?
Yeah, it's almost a copy and paste from our dealer session yesterday. So yeah, it does not. We're seeking advice at the moment. The automatic gate division across Australia and New Zealand is very broken, I would say, in terms of the understanding of compliance. It doesn't fall into line with the world condition, especially Europe, where it's mandatory that photo beams and flashing lights are put on automatic gates. We're seeking legal advice at the moment from Dulux to get a clearer understanding, because that could be the second phase. But we have some intricacies within the automatic gates now that say you can still trick an automatic gate with the use of a resistor to get an auto close function working without beams. So we need to lock down our technology, because in garage doors, it's under this Australian standard and it does not work that way. You cannot trick the product, but in gates, currently you can. So that's a little loophole, but we'll come back to you in timely. I've got Ray Hawkins, our chief engineer, on that task at the moment to seek, because we could see this is just going to go like a concertina effect if it's because they're associated industries. And then this third one is the commercial game. It's a little bit all over the shop as well. If you can imagine, just down to something as simple as installation height of beams, residential 100 mil, but then in the commercial environment, you'll see beams located anywhere between 400 and 600 high, but there's no standard. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Just one final question and I'll shut up. From a sales and marketing perspective,
Yes.
How does that affect in the marketplace, like these home automation companies and that promote garage door openings with their software, but
yeah,
obviously they're particularly not doing the beams? I mean, that surely opens up the market to us a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And look, we've got a duty of care that we need to obviously explain that third-party company. Say if we said the newfound brand of Go-Go Gate, because I know it's in New Zealand, right? So that's an example of that. Or even a home automation solution. You know, a complete home automation solution will have a smartphone control kit solution. Like though you can control that home from anywhere in the world. Now, if that's dotted line to controlling the garage door, those third-party controllers, we need to provide, not supply, we need to provide a provision of our beams to that company to do that work. But how we enforce it, I don't know, because that's just a trigger against the push button contact, right? It's not tied into our safety circuit. So I'm still yet to get full understanding, but what we're just going to do is provide, obviously, the beam available and start getting it knowledgeable at the AGDA, the association, so wider industries know about the wider impact of this change. So it'll take a bit of time, I would say, because there's so many of these third parties that are popping up to control. I know that Steelline in Australia have a mesh solution, so it's a universal door controller like a Go-Go Gate, and that's hitting the market now. I believe both Merlin and ourselves, so Chamberlain and B&D Group, are at the forefront of this development. But I think you'll find that the lesser known players in the marketplace, the smaller manufacturers, haven't planned for this. So we're jumping on it quick. But I can just go back to the sales and marketing side. We talk about unique selling propositions constantly, about what's unique that we can leverage more sales for you, the dealer of the B&D Group products. And the biggest opportunity we have in the marketplace right now is against our known opposition, being Merlin, because they do not have that wireless solution. So they're going to be putting in all of their dealers, when they've got smartphone solutions, they're going to have that that wide solution, and you can nip them on the quotations potentially, because your installation standards time has been dropped in half by the use of the wireless photo beam.
Yep.
So that's
Also
a
from an
big step.
aesthetic point of view.
Yeah, aesthetics is one. I mean, look, the beams are the beams. I would like them even smaller, and you will get them smaller. The package will change in 2021. We're looking at a new design, and it will get a smaller wireless beam case as well. So something that's I'd like to put out to the team before I leave, because you're quite a connected group of dealers that know their stuff. If there's anyone on the line that uses our beams regularly, some commentary was made by a dealer in Western Australia to saying that the beam brackets are too flimsy and they can be knocked very easily. We don't believe that's the case. They've been designed, you know, with that thought in mind, and they're, you know, thick enough to cope with those things. But if anyone's got any commentary about that if you could feed it through to the BDMs in your territory, that'd be good.
I've just got a quick question.
Yes, of course.
One of our tech guys just want to know they're doing a job tomorrow, and they've got there's already some 1v1 wireless beams installed, and I don't know why, but they want to know if the 3v1 receiver will work with those beams. The one.
No, you'll find that the beams are paired. So unfortunately, no, you need the full set.
Right.
So the transceiver is paired to the individual receiver transmitter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. Good session, guys. Lots of questions. Thank you for that. They're all from one person, but that's good, because the questions that everybody's got on their lips are really the things that you've explained this morning. So, and hopefully I've answered all the questions that you've raised as well.
Excellent stuff, Andrew. Thank you. If there's no other questions, we'll let Andrew go, probably to have his breakfast. But as Andrew said, there's a lot of information to come out from sales and marketing, and we'll advise of the installation training dates as well as we get those times and dates finalised. But thank you very much for your attendance.
Terrific, Mark. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time. I've got another session on this. What's that? Thursday. So anyone that's available for another session, they need to just recap and just to reinforce that we've got this as a recording, so you can share it to your wider team if they couldn't attend today. So thank you very much, and I'll let you go now.
Thank you all. Love you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee. Love you, Lee.
See you guys.
See ya.
Is the sales team hanging on?
Yeah, okay, let's do that.